Hey, this week on the 167, we're going to hear from Pastor Rick and Pastor Cam about walking by faith and walking in victory. Welcome to the 167. Hey, welcome back to the 167. I'm here with Pastor Rick George.
Yes, you are.
And Pastor Cameron Lazier.
What it do? Hey.
Welcome back to civilization, or to at least the work world after baby arrival. So let me, on the podcast, say congratulations.
Thank you. We're all dads here.
So, yeah.
We're all
dads here. Let's just lay it on the line.
This is the dad cast. If you
yeah. Now you're ready to serve on a panel. I mean, how many days you been a dad?
19
days.
He's
a pro.
I have an app that tells me every day, because sometimes it feels like it's been
an eternity,
but it's been like 12 days. Let me look.
Are you
20 days.
20 days.
Wrong.
Yep.
20 days.
So are you sleeping yet?
No.
No. All right.
I'm sleeping pretty good. I got 7 hours of sleep last night, but the way it is I get the 3 a.m. shift, so I sleep from 10:30 to 2:30, because he usually wakes up at 2:30 and has a poopy diaper. So
yeah,
and then I
me too.
for an hour.
I mean, no.
It all comes,
welcome to the 167.
It all comes back around. No. Well, congratulations. And do you want to tell everybody his name?
His name is Amari Shepard Lazier. Catch the name in about, how old is he? 20 days old. Catch his name in about 19 years when he's playing college football, and he's going to stop at college football. He's not going pro. I'm sorry.
Why are you going to speak that over him?
He's not. He's going to do college. He's going to be a star. And
checking in at running back, Amari Shepard.
See, the thing is, he was born on Travis Kelce and him share the same birthday.
Oh man!
And so my father-in-law is like, he's gonna be a tight end, and I'm like, have you seen his legs? He has my legs. He would not be a tight end.
No, he'll be.
Well, here's the not skipping leg day.
So
that's some good news.
Yes, good news.
What other good news are we talking about this week?
I don't know. Did anything else happen?
I heard there was some kind of like paper shredding or signing.
No, signing. Yeah. No. Yes, we have
shredding papers.
Shredding papers. No,
Burning.
we took a giant step forward in this process of impacting our community at an entirely different level as a church. And so we signed all of our loan documents, our closing documents, our construction documents, got everything signed and in order, which allows us to now begin to go to the next phase, which is to release our contractor to start doing their thing. So that will happen, or already happened, but you'll see activity beginning this week, hopefully, on the property with some preliminary things, and then next week, heavy equipment showing up and starting to move dirt, and then the next week we move in and have church.
Yeah,
no,
that's not how it works.
Yeah, no, it takes a little longer than a week to build a church, but
every
we'll
construction project, it just feels like it takes forever, because what they're actually doing is leveling the dirt and digging sewer lines. And
you got to dig all the trenches, which is biblical. It's like, hey, you got to get prepared. So we're just digging trenches,
dropping off equipment, all that. But then once it starts, it goes up pretty quick usually.
Yeah, so I just want to encourage everyone listening to the podcast today, everybody watching the podcast today, sometime in the next couple of weeks, just drive by the new property, 188th and Gardner Road in friendly Gardner, Kansas, and just glance down to the east and see if you can see any activity, any equipment moving, and as you do, pray. Just pray for the workers, pray for the consistency of work, or the expediency, that things continue on track and that we stay on schedule. and that
Maybe
we
it-
get to move in.
Maybe swing by Grindhouse by one of those Cup of Joe things
There
and
you
drop
go.
it off for the
Ooh.
construction workers.
I love how you said you're being safe. I like how you said glance and not look. Because you're driving.
Just,
you
just
can't look.
glance, don't look. If you're going to look, you got to actually
You gotta
turn
turn
in
in.
and
Be
sit and
safe.
observe. And
Just
yeah,
out of
but-
the corner of your eye.
No, but super excited for that part of the process to be completed. So now we can move forward confidently and aggressively. And hopefully by this time next year, we will be in a new facility, worshiping and impacting our city.
It's weird.
Yeah, so
You might be
there you
watching
go.
the podcast. If you watch us on YouTube, it might look different.
Yeah, we'll have a whole new podcast studio.
Oh.
Ooh, I'm gonna take that to the bank. I'm gonna hold on to
you
this and
go.
replay it. All right. So this week, though, when we're talking about move, we're talking about walking in faith, right? We're talking about walking by
Yep.
faith. And so one of the things that you said, which is key to walking in faith, and we see that throughout the Bible, is that God speaks to people to give them instructions that, it wasn't like Abraham was just like, I don't know, I'm thinking about moving east. Like God called Abraham, he
Yes.
calls Gideon, he calls all these people in Hebrews 11. And so I just want to talk to you a little bit because, it was brilliant. You actually have, all V's this
It's not
week.
like I heard that at some point from someone, the different principles that allow us to, and so like I didn't come up with every V myself.
No. That's not how this
But-
works.
Yeah.
It's,
I mean,
You know,
Hey, we're going to go back. You did.
I did. Yeah, I
come
heard
on,
it.
yeah.
you credit
it's
it.
my own.
Yeah. It's like I always say.
Like
Yeah.
I always said, there's 5, which I did say it.
I was having a
You
V.
did say it.
and-
I was having a V for Vendetta flashback
Yeah.
where the guy's always like the verbose ability and just use all those V words. I'm
Yeah.
like, that's not
So-
easy. It's S words. S words are a dime a dozen.
Yep. So the voice principle. So there are 5 principles. We started with the voice principle, which is hearing God speak.
Yeah.
Right. So,
So-
Abraham heard the call of God, so he packed up and took off.
Well, and this is, I don't know if you want to call it a pet peeve. It's a pet project of mine in discipleship because I watch people, like when we have life groups and someone will say, then God spoke to me, and I watch everybody put their heads down and they're like, I'm like, most of you think that God hasn't spoke to you. What does that experience actually feel like?
Right.
So I'm always really passionate about saying, like, what does this actually feel like? In your sermon, you said sometimes the voice of God sounds like Trudy's voice
Right.
because you're getting wisdom from your wife.
Correct.
So I just want to take some time, like when you guys have heard from the Lord, what does that sound like sometimes?
Sounds like Trudy.
I told you.
Sometimes
Shout out Trudy George.
Yeah.
Yes, and sometimes it sounds like the lyrics of a song, or it sounds like our worship team. Sometimes God's voice is just a really calm whisper that I can't shake from my head. It's just a constant reminder of Him. So,
Yeah.
for me, that's kind of it. Sometimes it sounds like the Word of God. And I talked to somebody the other day about reading, and they're like, I'm not a good reader. And I said, neither am I. But I listen to the Bible a lot on the Bible app. I listen. I'll be in the car in my truck, and I'll put on the Bible and I'll listen. So, and then I actually use the verse, faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word.
of God.
So it's biblical to listen to God's word.
Well, that's what it was mostly in, the Hebrew culture and early Judaism is that, somebody would come and they would read the Torah. Like, so they would just open the scroll. That's what Jesus does when they hand him the scroll of Isaiah, is people would listen to you read the scripture. It wasn't just you read it yourself. You would hear people read it and you'd memorize it and recite it.
Yeah, for me, a lot of it too is like that consistent, like God speaking through other people and people saying the same kind of thing to me or speaking, and I'm like, okay, there's a connection by what people are saying to me that aligns with what God says, or a lot of times too, it's like a random thought, a random idea that happens just out of the blue. Whether if I'm hanging out, playing video games, or I'm like working out, whatever. Like I think the other day, For me, I was lifting weights. I was doing leg day. So
No,
did leg
you were
day.
not.
I was
You
doing
were
legs. I was
absolutely not.
doing legs. I just got off the leg press machine. Had 5 plates on each side. Okay, there we go. There we go. I have a photo. I don't have a photo, but
Screenshot or it doesn't happen.
Screenshot doesn't happen. And I got off, and one of the guys at the gym, I talked to him a lot, and he told me a few months ago that his daughter, she's a senior in college, plays on the soccer team. She tore her ACL. And he was like, hey, can you pray for my daughter? All that stuff. And I was like, yeah, sure. So I was lifting weights, got done. Literally, I'm just like tired. And he walks past and he's like, hey, what's up, Cam? And I was like, nothing much. And for like, I wasn't even, I was thinking about like the next set, the next exercise, and popped in my head, hey, ask him how his daughter's doing. And so I just asked him, and he was like, oh, everything's going great. Like, thanks for asking. She's, improving in her healing process. He's stepping into a more leadership role. And he was like really excited that I remembered, and then I asked him about it. And so we had continue to have more conversation, all that stuff through that. And I feel like in that moment, like God speaks of just like out of the randomness of life. It's like, hey, go talk to that person, that leading. And that's what, kind of what we were talking about.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. Well, and like I think sometimes even the more weird and miraculous stuff, like when you read in the Bible, it's like somebody got a vision, but I'll have that happen to me where somebody passes by me or like I'm talking to somebody and I'll get this. It's not like I embarked on a 7-minute journey of this vision. It's just like a picture in my head. So it's not even a word. It's like I was talking to somebody and I would get a picture where it's just like this calm, peaceful, and it's just like, man, I just feel like you need to be, and like, it's like, that's what I want. And I'm always waiting for whatever Hollywood version of whatever God's speaking to me is. It's always like my coffee table is going to light on fire, or I'm going to hear Morgan Freeman, speak to me from, Luke, like it's going to be like that, or it's going to be like I pass out and go on a vision quest for hours, and they're like, "You've been gone for days." Like, the year, tell me the year, But really, it's like these flash, like you said, I'll get a word for somebody, you'll get a vision, you'll feel prompted to call somebody, like, man, I want to check in on my buddy. It's like, and you call them and you say, man, I don't know why God put you on my heart. They're like, man, it's so weird. So I think that, hearing the voice of God is so important. And you're talking about to be careful about the variety. It's like, it can sound like wisdom from a friend. It can sound like, that prompting of ask him about his daughter, so I just always want people to be encouraged, because I think most people are like, I don't hear from God, because they expect,
some audible, yeah. James Earl Jones.
James Earl Jones start reading the Bible in their bed. You're like,
Yeah, and again, so what a lot of people will then say,
Simba.
like I've heard this as well as you have, people saying like, yeah, I don't know, I had this weird thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Yeah, out of nowhere. I just had this weird thought, and I can't get it out of my mind, and I don't know where it came from. It's like, hello.
Yeah, there you go.
You need to dig deeper in that. Is that God speaking? It might not be, but it very well could be God speaking to you, saying, go here, do this, say that, inquire about that. It's just make that phone call.
Yeah.
And I think that's liberating for people on the flip side of that too, because I've had people that are like, man, sometimes I think awful thoughts, and I'm like, yeah, but is it like it's the same thing? It's a random thought that comes out of nowhere, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, that's not you.
Yeah.
Like, that's not your heart. That's the enemy. That's, Satan, like, trying to put that, Well, one of the other V's that we ventured to look at was, of course, the values.
Yeah.
So the values principle. Tell me a little bit about the values principle.
So it's just a continual assessment of my life in relation to God's word and his values. And it's, when I say a constant or a consistent, it's daily, sometimes hourly, to make sure that the things that I say that I value are lining up with the values that God has. And if I say I love God, I want to follow him, I want to, I give him my life, then those things have to be in alignment. We value a lot of things. And again, the things that I value are not necessarily the things that either of you value or anyone listening values. That part, okay, you just have to look at the things I do value and then just assess those things. What does it say about me? It's somewhat like, it doesn't necessarily mean if I value nice clothes over cheap clothes, like what my example on Sunday, that if I value cheap clothes, that means that I'm more godly, because God values cheap clothes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that it's just something that I value, but what does that say about me? Why do I value that? And do I use the resources that I'm saving, the finances that I'm saving, to do something else that would reflect God more accurately? So it's a constant, continual assessment of how am I reflecting my values, and what does that say about God and what he values?
Well, and I think it's really good when you get in on that early. You know what I'm saying? Like, even I've talked recently to a couple of people about tithing or giving, and I was like, my parents raised me to fear credit and debt, and to put away money and so it's easier when you do that. Like, how can we help families? Like, how would you say this process works for families where they're like they've already got 3 kids, their kids are 10, 12, 14, and they want to reassess the way that their family is going right now? Like, what are some, like, even for youth, like, my kid, I let them have every social media platform under the sun. They've got Snapchat, and now I'm like, I don't know about this. I want to reassess that. What are some tips that we think that we have for people at home to be able to pull back as a family and say, hold on, we've been going this way. Let's reassess this, and then try and get everybody on board with those values. What do you think that looks like around the kitchen table?
I think a lot of it is, you mentioned it a little bit when you're talking about finances and the message of just really just like looking at your budget. One of the things is seeing where the money goes. And I think that's very important. But that's one of the things in our marriage that we looked at in the beginning of just even consistently we go, okay, let's look at the budget. Let's look at what's coming out so we can see. I have an app that tells me every single thing and where it goes, and it puts in a category, and I'm like, oh, we spent this much on this, and so that really helps. I think,
out of curiosity, what app do you use?
Let me find the name because I don't want to butcher it, but it is True Bill.
Okay.
True Bill. I use that.
Yep. Because there are other apps, Mint is one, everydollar.com.
Yeah.
So Dave Ramsey has a tool or an app that you can use. So it's not, again, necessarily that you have to have the right app. You have to have something that helps you make that assessment.
And something that's easy because the thing is even every dollar, there's a free version where you can put everything yourself. But if you pay this a little bit more, it will just take your account and then do it for you. So now it's it's not you making it up. It's no, the facts are here. This is what it's.
Yeah, if you use your debit card at a gas station, it knows, boom, it's coming out of the gas budget.
Yeah. So, and then I think that's the same thing with social media, just teenagers, everyone in general. I know it was annoying for us as a staff, just in the beginning when we were doing online stuff, and every Sunday morning at 9:30, you would hear it on the stream, the bloop, here's your screen time, that would pop up on all the Mac stuff. And it's annoying, but it tells you every single week, this is your screen time for the week. And if you hit it and you look at it, you're like, oh, wow, I picked up my phone 200 times today. The first app I went to was my messages or Instagram. I spent this much time on TikTok or whatever. And I think it's important and we've done that with teenagers where we talked about time, and we did a series on social media earlier this year. And I was like, hey, what's your screen time? And we were going through, kids had they spent literally all day on their phones, or all a whole 24 hours in an entire week on their phones. And I'm like, you don't realize that you've been on your phone for a whole entire day.
So if you put your phone down for an hour, your iPhone's messaging going, are you dead?
Yeah.
Are you?
But that's what I mean by assessing.
Yeah.
So you have to look, because if you ask a number of those kids or people, they'd say, I don't really value, I'm not that into Instagram. Or it's really? Look how much time you spent.
Yeah.
And they would be shocked, and they'd be like, what? I didn't spend that. Yes, you did.
You need a data endpoint.
Yeah, and so you would say, well, if that's not what you value, then you've assessed that. Now you have to do something else to put what you say you value as a higher priority.
Yeah.
I remember the first time we ever used Mint, I was rooming with a roommate, my friend Tyler, and we actually put our accounts in or whatever. And so what Mint does, if you haven't, our listeners haven't used it or watched it, it has a little circle graph, a little pie graph, and it tells you how much of the percentage of your income you're spending on certain things. And so it's categories like fast food, groceries, whatever. Tyler's had a breakout that was just McDonald's. There was a fast food breakout, and then there was a separate category for McDonald's. And he just inputted his stuff, and it spit that out, and he goes, I need to make some life changes.
Yeah. So it's just,
How do you do
what do I value?
Yeah.
That's all it's saying is I need to be accountable and responsible for my life and my finances. Am I in alignment with God? That's all it's.
So that's
And
a thing. Find a tool, sit down with it, bring the family in on this. Go, let's look at this data. What does this say about us?
That's
But then,
why
like, what do you
Google
do with it?
Calendar. Google
Yeah.
Calendar is great too. So Trudy and I share our Google Calendar, so we can see, what I'm doing. We're both busy, and if I'm trying to make an appointment with somebody, I can look and say, "Oh, I can't do it this time." But if you look at our calendar, you'll see the things that we spend the most time doing. Well, that's because we value those things most. And if we're spending a lot of time on things that we don't value, that's on us.
Right.
Like it's right there. I need to look and assess that and say we need to reassign some of that time into the things that we say we value most.
Yeah.
That's good. And then last, we talked about the victory principle. So you talked about walking in victory. And again, that's one of those phrases that I want to kind of break down for people, because when we talk about walking in victory, we talk about that a lot because that's biblical principle is, Christ is already, he's given his life on the cross. We walk in victory. We struggle every day, but we say that we've won the war essentially. What does that mean on a daily basis for us to walk in victory? What does that mean for me when I encounter troubles in my life?
So it's a confidence level. So when I'm facing every day, I don't have to face the day defeated, discouraged, beat up, kind of thinking that nothing's going to work out. I face the day with confidence, knowing that Jesus has already gone before me. He has defeated the enemy. It does not mean that the enemy is not still going to try to attack me. It just means his weapons have no real authority, or the weapons that I have are far superior than his. And so he might pop up here and there with these little, attacks, but they are nothing. The battle's already won. There's these little insurgent, pop-ups here and there, but like just use my weapons. I'm good. The passage that I used said he made a mockery of them. He put them to shame. He nailed all of my transgressions to the cross, and he defeated the enemy. He disarmed the enemy. So I've got weapons. The enemy doesn't have much, so I'm just like, it's over.
Yeah.
And I can walk in that confidence.
Yeah, I like that. For some reason, when you were talking, I kept thinking about before this past, obviously, if you follow NFL, follow the Chiefs, they played the 49ers this past Sunday, they won. But before that, they were showing the Super Bowl game with the Chiefs and 49ers, and Casey and I were watching it back. And it was interesting because the outcome, like you're watching a game and you watch it from a different perspective because you know the outcome, but the interceptions, the fumbles, the tackles for losses, it still stings when you watch it and you kind of like, but you already know that's what the outcome's going to be. So
I know how this is going to end.
Turn out.
Like,
it sucks watching it, but at the end of the game what's going to happen.
That's great. Yep.
That's the confidence of just like, I'm going to go through my day and I know that I'm going to have something bad might happen here, something bad might happen here. I might not like this situation. I might not like this conversation I'm going to have, or this thing just blew up in my face, whatever. But I know at the end of the day, I know at the end of the week, whatever it is, like there's victory in Jesus. I can put my head down and know, God's got everything.
So I love that analogy, because it's like if we can see the end of how this whole thing plays out and then see where we are and just rewatch it. Like it's already happened. I'm just going to rewatch it. It's a whole different perspective. There's going to be, I might get sacked. Who cares? We still win. Like we're still winning. It's not a big deal.
Well, and I think the danger in that is that we get emotionally involved anyway. Like, I don't watch a lot of sports, but I've, watched a lot of movies, read a lot of books, and it's like there are literally books and movies that start that way. They're like, this is the story of how I died. Or like, like somebody, like you see the thing and it's like, you see somebody like falling off a building and then they're like, how did I get here? And then the whole movie is how they got there, but you're still rooting You know, like I said, you're still watching it going, maybe and you're like, oh no, I forgot.
Yeah.
Like this has already been determined. Like this is what's going to happen. But you still emotionally get tied up. Like you said, you can still get emotionally tied up. You're like, they fumbled it.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, calm down. You know, and so I believe that as well, where we're going, you know, I think that's the danger for us as Christ followers is to get emotionally tied up and lose hope.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, like, no, absolutely not. We get to walk in victory. You know, Christ has overcome the grave. We get power and authority. But what happens is we get emotionally involved and then we just forget all of that.
Yeah. So my dad and my mother-in-law, so my dad's 92, my mother-in-law is 86, something like that. They both love to watch Grit TV, the old Westerns.
Oh, yeah.
You know, black and white Westerns. And it's the same show over and over and over. And they've seen that show multiple times, and they know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
But they still watch it because some gunfights happening or some confrontation, and it's like, yeah, I know how this is going to turn out. The good guy's going to win. I know, and they still watch it, but they know it's how it's going to end.
Yeah.
We need to approach life like that. We know how this is going to end. Like all the little things in the middle, though we have to deal with them, are not that significant in the grand scheme of things. We win. The battle is already won. There is victory. So we have to walk in victory. We're not working for the victory.
Yeah.
That's
and
good.
that's inspiring for other people, so that if you're going through a situation, people can go like, I don't know why are you so hopeful? Like, why are you so excited? All that stuff. It's like, well, I know God's got this. Like, it's like my mom had breast cancer. And so she was doing, like, years ago, she, you know, she's cancer free now and all this stuff. But when she was doing the chemotherapy, everyone else in the chemotherapy room or whatever was like, and mom would tell me all the time, like, they're all sad, they're mopey around all that stuff, and they're looking at my mom, and my mom's like happy go lucky, like she's like, I'm getting ready to go to the gym after this, like, and do my Zumba whatever class, which is weird, that she was doing after chemo, which is great. I mean, also too, she was really strong, but just that faith that she had, that confidence she had of just like, hey, I don't care, like, I'm here, God's got me, whatever happens, but I know at the end of the day, like,
I win. I got it. It's already,
got him.
already done.
We up.
Yeah. Oh, it's always weird too when you have somebody of great faith that, you know, passes away and you want to look at like their family members who are also people of good faith and you're like, I'm sorry that they're gone.
Yeah.
But they're probably like way better than we're doing right now. You know, you're just like, okay. But it's great. We're just trying to figure it out here. I'm looking forward to more and more good news as this develops. If you guys get a chance, go to newlifegardener.com, click on move, check out what's going on, check out how we're moving in the community, all the great things that we're doing. You can check on progress of the building by showing up here on Sunday morning. We'll be giving you updates, and we'll try and keep you updated here on the podcast. But stay tuned for a 7-minute story. We'll see you next time here on the 167. Welcome back to 7-Minute Stories. I'm here with Megan Courtney. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Are you excited?
Yeah, I am. I am.
I can see that you are.
Yeah.
Not nervous at all.
I was really excited when Mike reached out and asked me to do this because these 7-minute stories in the 167 is the reason why my husband and I actually came to New Life for the first time.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I grew up in the area, grew up going to a Southern Baptist church, a small Southern Baptist church, but then I went to college and decided, I don't need church, right? Went on about my life. My husband and I have lived in the area for a while, and we just kind of looked at each other one day and we're like, I think there's more, right?
It's time.
It's time. So, I was like, well, how do people find a church, right? There's not like a dating app for churches.
Oh my gosh. Is that a gap in the market?
I think that we could maybe fix that, but I'm kind of like, how do you do your match? How do you do this? And I'm like, well, the internet has everything. So, I was going to my mom's house and it's close to here. And I saw a whole bunch of people were over at the Veterans Park. They were picking up trash and they had a shirt on that said, we love you, Gardner, or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay, New Life. I know that's a church. And so, just me, I'm not shy about anything. I just got out and said, hey, tell me about your church. So talked to them a little bit, and they said, hey, we actually have this podcast if you want to hear a little bit about the folks that go there. So check it out. I was like, okay. And then I went out there and just, immediately start trying to figure out, are the people that go here crazy?
Absolutely, we are.
Can I fit in? And it's like I started hearing stories, and I was like, these are real people, because you kind of assume going in, oh, these people, it's very religious, and nobody's got any real problems. And then you get out there, and it's like, here it is. It's just right here. So
Yep.
I loved it.
We're all in it together.
Yep. So, yeah, like I said, I, grew up in the area, went to a very, I like to call it fire and brimstone, Southern Baptist Church. I actually went to Baker University. So then, kind of Methodist. So I'm kind of floating around in what I would call religion at the time. And my husband, same, small Baptist church, and got saved at 14. And it was very much, I heard this story a lot. I actually heard it several times in the 7-minute stories. It was, I got saved because I didn't want to go to hell. And that's a realization of like, wow, okay. So it was definitely out of fear. Fast forward, go to college, did what a lot of college kids do, right? Rebelled completely. Didn't go too ultra far, but enough to definitely not, to kind of walk away from my spiritual self. And then, like I said, my husband and I we're looking at each other. We're in our 40s. We don't really have a community. First of all, that was actually the main thing that we were looking for. Is we're like, oh, every church is the same, right? It's basically the same. It's going to be the same boring hymns. No offense to those who like the old rugged cross. I love that too. But, you kind of think it's all the same. You just assume that you know everything. And I very quickly realized when I got here and people are, opening the doors, the very first person I saw is actually now the person who leads my husband's table, which is John Myers. And he had a big smile on his face. Hey, we're so happy to see you. We're like, oh, wow, okay, these people are nice. All right, I can dig this. You go in, you hear the music, because we're late. My husband always makes us late. I'm early, but my husband makes us late. Go in, you hear the music, and I'm like, I think I hear a guitar and some drums. Like, I'm like, let's hurry up. Like, let's get in here. I want to check this out. And people they're raising their hands, and we're just like, this is wild. And people are wearing, of course, we're like way overdressed. And so a very eye-opening experience to know that even in, because you're thinking Gardner is super conservative, all the churches are the same. We obviously knew nothing. So, but what I really wanted to share that because I'm 4 months, we've been going to New Life for 4 months, and we've had just huge revelations. And I wish I would have known that, right, going into it, because I think that you go in with a lot of intrepidation. You don't know if you can jive with these people. And I've definitely found all sorts of people that go to New Life, and I'm like, I feel like there's like a pot for every lid at this church, which I really love that. But so the first time I came here was May 29th. I remember it's because it was before my birthday, and you were preaching, and you sold us because you lit a bowl on fire.
Oh, everybody loves the pyrotechnics.
Yes. My husband was like, this place has good music. They're nice. And the pastor just literally
I almost
said
lost
something.
my eyebrows that Sunday.
Yeah, you pulled out that first thing and you lit it pretty close to your face. And my husband is like, this place is amazing. So
Close-up magic.
So, but what we heard that day, I'll never forget, because what we heard that day has just completely changed our lives, which was, I mean, you talked about the Hevel and everything. And of course we went back and we watched the other sermons that kind of led up to that. What we heard that day was, once you are born again, once you are saved, you're God's child, there is nothing that you can do that will make him love you any less. And I'm going to try not to cry because growing up, everything was performance-based. You got saved, that's good. But fire and brimstone is just like a half a second away, right? All your thoughts, everything that you do is like you're just on that teetering point. And it has taken us, we're still kind of processing that, to be honest with you, because there's a lot to kind of back up with that. But so that has really changed our lives. And then Mike Ward, who is kind of like probably our closest person in the church, and I know with a lot of people. We go to the first week meeting, we sign up, we say we want to go to Freedom, which was another thing that really interested us about the church. And he calls us and he's like, so, you like New Life? Yep. Okay, well, we need to get you rebaptized. So like, hey, by the way, we're doing that like in a couple weeks. And can I go ahead and just sign you up? Like, he is like an ultimate salesman. And my husband and I are looking at each other, we're like, well, we've been baptized. And he's like, no. You need to get rededicated and just like, and do it out of choice this time, because he had an hour-long conversation with me. He had an hour-long conversation with Lance, and really pointed out that like, you are in a completely different spot than you were when you were 14. And you're starting to understand more. This is the first step to the rest of your life. And then when you go to Freedom, you know, things will just start happening to you. And I was just like, sure.
To start fresh, not out of fear, but out of love.
Exactly. Out of your choice, out of love, better understanding. And then he's telling us all this stuff that he's seen happen in prayer groups and everything that's kind of, you know, that he's seen personally. And even though we believe him, we're like, sure, for other people. Right. And I'm a pretty cynical person by nature. And so I'm immediately like, okay, you know, we'll go. And I go and I meet my table people and, you know, just my table ladies at Freedom. And we start talking, and I'm like, okay, these people have real problems just like me. All right. And then you just start kind of opening up. And then like what I love is that Mike's like teaching us how to pray in a very practical perspective. It's not flowery. There's no real like super strict formula. And it's really practical, because you're literally praying for something. You're praying for something, and the structure. And I remember the very first week, I was really having a lot of problems with my knee, and we all fumbled through the prayer, but I started to really feel a lot of relief after that. And so you just start to be like, wow, this stuff is real. And it kind of freaks you out a little bit. It does, because then you're just like, oh. And then, so I'm starting to see God move in my life. And I wanted to share the latest thing, which is I really value, I've been kind of really dealing with pride a lot. That's kind of, I think, my big boulder. And the other day I was on a conference call. Oh man, I was patting myself on the back for this idea that I pitched, and it's, you know, going to run nationwide and everything. And then when I was doing my lesson afterwards, it was about pride, and I was praying afterwards, and God spoke to me. It was the first time it was clear. And he was like, so you think you're smart? Guess what? Like, who do you think made your brain and the synapses that run through your body, and gave you your thoughts? That was me. Like, all those great ideas, they're not necessarily yours. Like, just putting it into perspective. And it was like in the most loving way, being like, I'm God, and you are of me, and you need to, you know, to recognize that and understand that pride is getting in your way of your relationship with me. So in the most loving, fatherly way.
Yeah, it's good. You can take a word of rebuke, but in a love and tender care.
Yeah.
And like I said, and I think that's, you know, that's incredibly wise, because I know people that do that. They say like, well, I get a word from the Holy Spirit in a board meeting, and I don't stand up and go, the Holy Spirit has, but they just say, hey, what about this idea?
Yeah.
And then if somebody later comes to them, they say, where'd you get that idea? And I go, well, I have the Holy Spirit, and he leads me into wisdom.
Yeah. Yeah, and it wasn't like Charlton Heston, right? Like it wasn't this. It was more of just like it was just a very clear voice that pointed it out, and I mean, it gave me chills. I mean, it was wild. I mean, it was crazy. And then I was like, I love this. I just want more. So I'm just releasing more and more of these thoughts of religion that I've kind of built up of what it is to be a Christian. And I'm just releasing that and knowing that all that matters is my relationship with God.
That's good. Well, I hope that helps some of our listeners out there. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much for coming on and doing your 7-minute story. This is so good. Like, I love your story. And I think it's just the beginning for you guys.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time here on 7-Minute Story. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.